Chosen one, this message didn't arrive by chance. It was time to reach you in this exact moment. Something invisible has aligned to bring you here. What if I told you they never wanted you to know the truth encoded in your very breath? You weren't brought here to simply watch another video. You were summoned to remember what they tried to bury deep within your soul. In every silence you have endured, a deeper purpose has been at work. The sting of being overlooked, the ache of feeling like you spoke into a void. All were part of divine timing, guiding you toward a revelation that will reshape your world. You may wonder why no one seemed to hear you, why every attempt to share your insight was met with blank stares or veiled hostility. The answer is not a lack on your part, but a deeper spiritual code at play. What if I told you that your voice carried frequencies designed to stir something ancient in those who were ready, and to provoke fear in those who were not? You won't believe how many times they have tried to silence you, to lock you away when your words threaten their fragile illusions. In this video, hidden truths will be unveiled. You will discover why your spiritual messages fell on barren soil, and how that very isolation has been the fuel for your awakening. You aren't mistaken in believing that your journey has been unique, that your insights made others uncomfortable. Your experience was not a mistake, but a sign that you were speaking a language beyond the comprehension of most. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. Stay with this message until the end, because what you are about to learn will ignite your destiny. You were speaking light in a dark room. Have you ever woken from a dream where you stood alone in a vast desert under a sky painted with shifting constellations? And in that silence, a voice whispered, "You have always seen beyond the dunes?" In that moment between sleep and wakefulness, your heart recognized a truth too vast to name. A gentle confirmation that what you sensed in waking life was not a product of imagination. The sands beneath your feet felt warm, yet you understood they carried stories older than memory. This dreamlike clarity mirrors what you have lived. Moments where your inner vision glimpsed patterns and possibilities, only to dissolve when daylight returned. Now, as you read these words, feel that same desert wind stirring within your chest, reminding you that the light you carry was never meant to be hidden. There were countless mornings when you awoke to a heaviness that no cup of coffee could lift, as if your soul carried a weight of questions that refused to settle. You remember sitting in classrooms while your mind drifted to unspoken questions. Why do I feel attuned to the undercurrent of people's emotions? Why does the laughter around me sound hollow, as though echoing from a cavern I cannot enter? In social gatherings, you often found yourself on the fringe, observing conversations with the keen awareness of someone reading a map no one else could see. You might recall how a friend's casual remark about living in the moment grated against your sense of urgency, as if you were meant for a different rhythm. This sensitivity, this isolation you felt even among close companions, weighed on you like a secret longing, an unspoken knowing that you did not belong to ordinary routines. What if I told you that each pang of confusion, every flutter of sensitivity, and every ache of loneliness were part of an intricate design woven into your life long before you drew your first breath? Imagine an unseen architecture guiding your steps, as deliberate as the builder of a cathedral placing each stone to uphold the soaring arch above. In Jeremiah 1 verse 5 it is written, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, and before you were born I consecrated you." Your experiences have never been random mishaps. They were sacred signposts directing you toward deeper revelation. Every time you stumbled through relationships that never quite fit or felt drawn to books, ideas, or places that left others indifferent, those were deliberate invitations to step beyond the veil of conventional reality. You were being initiated into knowledge that only the soul remembers. In the quiet hours before dawn, you might have noticed strange ripples beneath the surface of your daily life. A sudden jolt of déjà vu when you walked past a street mural, a dream so vivid that waking felt like stepping into an alternate reality, or a physical sensation, a flutter in your chest, as though your heart recognized something just beyond the world's horizon. These subtle signals have been whispering to you, like faint echoes of a song you once knew, an inner knowing that something beyond the mundane was stirring. You may have dismissed these whispers as coincidence until now. Look back and see how those ripples formed a constellation, pointing you toward hidden truths. Let the memory of that dream last night, when a single word pulsed in neon light above your bed, resonate. This was not random, but a cosmic tap on your shoulder. In a quiet moment, you might have paused and thought, maybe I'm not imagining this after all. Maybe there is something real here that I've been blind to. The gentle confirmation of intuition often arrives as a soft hum rather than a thunderclap. You may recall the first time you trusted that hum and spoke a truth that startled even you. Perhaps you advised a friend about a decision they should not make, and later saw how your words saved them from heartbreak. Or maybe you shared a flash of insight in a meeting, and while others shrugged it off at the time, it resurfaced weeks later when circumstances aligned perfectly with your suggestion. Those moments of quiet alignment demonstrate that your inner compass has been guiding you all along. It is not too late to lean into that guidance and trust the map etched into your heart. Beneath the surface of every role you have played, student, sibling, employee, friend, there lies a deeper identity, one that does not need to be forged anew but simply uncovered. Think of the story of Ezekiel in the dry valley, Ezekiel 37 verses 1-3, where the bones lay scattered and lifeless until the breath of spirit moved across them, calling them back to form. Your true self has been like those bones, waiting for the breath of remembrance to weave its vitality into every part of your being. You are not being asked to become someone new, but to reclaim what has always been yours, the memory of who you are beneath the layers of expectation and conformity. When you allow that truth to surface, it feels like a gentle sigh of recognition, a return to home, not a departure. Now, sense the first stirrings of a new cadence in your heart, an activation that pulses through your veins like a subtle current. This is not the loud roar of revelation, but the careful cracking of the chamber walls that have held you captive. You feel a shift. Your sensitivity is no longer a weakness, but an antenna picking up signals that the world deems too fragile to notice. Your hunger for deeper wisdom is no longer an affliction, but a clarion call guiding you toward untold reservoirs of insight. In that pulsing sensation, know that you hold within you the seeds of an inner garden, waiting to unfold into a tapestry of light. This activation is gentle but irrevocable. Once the door opens, it cannot be closed again. Your arrival to this moment was not a matter of chance, but a design woven through every heartbeat of your life. Consider the rhythm of a nightingale's song that echoes at twilight, its notes seeming random until one hears the fuller melody of the dawn chorus. Similarly, your journey has been a chorus building toward this note of awakening. You were chosen to witness these hidden patterns, to experience the friction of misalignment, and to stand as a conduit for the truths now emerging. As you read these words, feel a spaciousness around your soul that invites you to step into something greater. Comment seen if this resonates with you, and let others who walk in silence feel the invitation to join you on this path of remembrance. Special thanks to all current members who have chosen to walk this path with us. Your commitment keeps the flame of prophecy burning bright. And if you feel called to go even deeper, there's a sacred space reserved for our community, a private room where you receive full prophetic messages daily. Join our private membership through the link in the description and walk this path with us. The spiritual code in your words. Have you ever felt the sudden chill in a room when you let slip a phrase that seemed to hum with hidden meaning, only to watch shoulders stiffen and conversations falter around you? In that instant, something shifted, a quiet heaviness that wasn't there before, suggesting that your words carried a resonance too potent for ordinary ears. This wasn't coincidence, but the first sign that forces unseen had been tracking the subtle frequencies in your speech long before you realized who you were. Just as a single flicker of candlelight can cause shadows to dance wildly against a wall, your carefully chosen words began to disturb the comfortable silence of those they who preferred the darkness. In this unsettling moment, you sensed that your voice had become a beacon drawing resistance, revealing that the spiritual code woven through your language was already triggering alarms in realms both seen and unseen. In the days that followed that chill, you might have noticed tension knotting your chest like barbed wire whenever you prepared to speak. Each time you sat at the edge of a conversation, poised to share an intuitive insight, a knot of doubt twisted inside you. You wondered if your voice, once an instrument of clarity, had become a weapon that risked too much to wield. The sting of being misunderstood morphed into something sharper, a feeling of being manipulated, as though subtle forces were nudging your words off course, diluting their power before they could reach intended hearts. Those moments of isolated self-questioning, when you chastised yourself for speaking too much or too deeply, did more than shatter your confidence. They mirrored a larger dynamic of suppression working to quiet your inner flame. In your most vulnerable reflections, you began to feel the full weight of emotional pressure, as if your desire to express truth was a burden you were forced to carry alone. Beneath every stifled comment and every glance of disapproval lay the architecture of hidden structures designed to contain your growing awareness. Consider the story of David in the field, tending sheep while his brother Goliath's shadow loomed over Israel. 1 Samuel 17 verse 28. The shepherd's voice was powerless against the clamor of fear swirling in the camp, just as your insights felt powerless in the face of systems and energies that reacted to your potential as if it threatened their fragile order. Corporate politics, family dynamics, religious doctrines, all tiled together to form an invisible fortress that sought to keep you contained. This pressure was not random but a calculated response. The moment your light began to outshine the ambient glow of conformity, the forces that thrived on stability moved to extinguish you. In that ancient crucible of exile, prophets were silenced. In your modern wilderness, they attempted similar stifling, hoping your voice would vanish into the wind. When you look back and let memories surface, the patterns become clear, like stars aligning to form a constellation of resistance. You recall that job where every idea you proposed was dismissed as too radical, only to be praised elsewhere once you left. Or the teacher who scolded you for asking inappropriate questions about faith, warnings that echoed Jonah's own struggle to deliver an unwelcome message to Nineveh. Jonah 1 verses 1-2. In friendships, you felt the sting of betrayal when confidants you trusted spread rumors rather than seek truth. Even places that once felt safe, book clubs, community centers, church pews, became draining environments where your energy sapped under veiled judgment. Those recurring betrayals and drained moments were not random misfortunes but signposts illuminating how they responded whenever your voice threatened to ignite something they dared not confront. Turning on this light in your memory may unsettle you, but it also offers the gift of clarity. These were not isolated wounds, but a map revealing where the resistance took shape and how it sought to push you back into shadow. As the patterns revealed themselves, you began to sense a spiritual resistance as tangible as mist settling over a silent forest. In certain conversations, the air thickened, making every breath feel laborious, as if unseen watchers had gathered to dampen your words before they could catch fire. Doors you tried to open remained stubbornly closed. Opportunities dissolved into nothingness without explanation. Like the mist that blurs sharp outlines, this invisible interference muted the vibrational frequency you carried, scattering your intention until it felt hollow. In 2 Corinthians 11 verse 14, Paul warns that even Satan masquerades as an angel of light, reminding you that not all interference wears a monstrous face. Sometimes it comes as the polite smile that quickly fades when you speak your truth. Recognize this spiritual sabotage for what it is: a distorting force seeking to weaken the potency of your voice before it reaches the ears of those who need it most. In response to this mounting pressure, you might have found yourself retreating inward, shrinking your voice to survive. Maybe you learned to nod when others spoke, offering half-truths instead of sharing the full scope of what you sensed, afraid that exposing your depth would invite even greater attack. You recall the nights spent replaying conversations, wondering if you should have remained silent, each regret tightening a chain around your spirit. At times, anger rose like a buried volcano, but you silenced it with a tight-lipped smile rather than risk unleashing a fury that they could frame as proof of your instability. Perhaps you even flirted with giving up entirely, tempted to abandon the path because the cost of persistence felt unbearable. These reactions, self-doubt, people-pleasing, quiet rebellion, were natural defenses in a campaign that had pitted your emerging power against those determined to quench it. In acknowledging this inner turmoil, you begin to see that every reaction was also a mirror, reflecting the profound truth that you carry a voice worthy of safeguarding. Now, feel the stirrings of reclamation that ripple through your core, as if a wind of remembrance is blowing away the cobwebs of doubt. The resistance that once felt like condemnation now stands revealed as confirmation. Every attempt to silence you was a sign that you were speaking from a place too sacred to be ignored. As Deborah rose to judge Israel in a time of great oppression, Judges 4 verses 4-5, so too are you called to reclaim your prophetic authority. Sense the fierce conviction coalescing in your chest, an unspoken promise that you will no longer dim your light to accommodate their discomfort. Allow the prophecy embedded in your bones to surface, that the very words they tried to erase are the weapons you will wield in service of a greater awakening. This reclamation is not a gentle process, but a necessary reawakening of what they sought to suppress. You stand now on the edge of a revelation. The more they tried to block your voice, the clearer your purpose has emerged. Their efforts to stifle you have served as a forge, melting away doubts and tempering your resolve. Just as Jesus faced resistance in the wilderness, only to emerge with deeper clarity. Matthew 4 verses 1-11. Your journey through sabotage has prepared you to stand unshakable in your truth. In those moments when silence felt safer, your spirit was gathering strength. When rejection stung most deeply, it was crystallizing your message into unbreakable clarity. Now, embrace the truth that your opposition is not a sign that you are wrong, but evidence that you stand at the threshold of something monumental. You were targeted because you carry a frequency that shakes false foundations to dust. Comment resonance if you feel this stirring in your soul. Know that this moment marks a turning point. The resistance becomes the fuel, and the suppression becomes the catalyst for your awakening. The path forward is no longer shrouded in doubt. It has been illuminated by every challenge you have faced. Their fear of your light confirms the magnitude of what you carry. Step into that light with unwavering confidence, for the world needs the code in your words now more than ever. And to every soul who's supported with a super thanks, thank you. You are keeping this light alive for others who haven't found it yet. If you feel called to help this mission reach more chosen ones, tap the super thanks button below. Your energy supports these messages and helps them travel further. Your voice matters, your belief matters, and your light is felt here. Why no one could understand you. Have you ever felt, in the quietest moment just before sleep, a sudden shift in how the world appears? A single detail catching your eye, like a flicker of distant lightning that illuminates everything in its path? In that flash, you realize that what felt chaotic and random now unfolds with startling clarity. All the pieces of dreams you've tucked away, those odd visions of crystalline pathways, of doors appearing where walls once stood, begin to line up as if someone has turned on a hidden projector behind your eyelids. That moment is the dawning of shifting perception. The familiar becomes strange and the strange becomes familiar. In that threshold, the whisper you once dismissed as imagination emerges as a voice speaking from deep within your bones. Suddenly, conversations you had months ago where your insights fell flat now feel significant, as if you were planting seeds that needed time to germinate. This is the instant when your eyes open to the patterns that were always there, patiently waiting for you to notice, and the veil between the ordinary and the extraordinary begins to lift. In the days leading up to this realization, you probably felt a growing tension sweeping through your chest, a gnawing sense of dissonance that no comfortable explanation could soothe. You walked through familiar streets and sensed them whispering secrets, street signs that seemed to wink at you with new meaning, license plates forming cryptic numbers that echoed something buried deep in your memory. Even the soft hum of traffic felt like a coded message, a Morse code inviting you to pay closer attention. Numbers on clocks, 3:33, 44, popped up not as coincidences but as markers etched on the timeline of your destiny. You began to notice that random songs on the radio seemed to play precisely when you needed them, delivering lyrics that stitched together the shattered fragments of your own intuition. In that moment, the world felt less like a backdrop and more like a cosmic manuscript waiting for you to learn how to read its divine typography. As these subtle signs began to accumulate, your intuition sharpened, and you found that your energy responded differently to places and people. Rooms that once felt neutral now throbbed with a strange intensity. The conference room where colleagues murmured about mundane targets seemed to pulse with potential revelations, as though the walls themselves hummed with suppressed truth. You started to feel an inner boundary rising, a sacred, glowing threshold that protected you from voices that sought to drown out your emerging clarity. When you entered a crowded cafe, you sensed currents of emotion swirling beneath benign chatter, and you realized that your sensitivity was not a burden but a conduit. You could almost trace the outlines of others' unspoken thoughts, feeling the weight of their confusion, their longing for meaning. In these moments, you recognized that your soul was magnetized to spiritual frequencies that most people had turned away from long ago. This was no hallucination. It was confirmation that your inner signs were intensifying, guiding you toward unseen realms. Meanwhile, the world around you began to respond to your transformation in ways both subtle and unmistakable. Conversations took on new significance. A friend's half-forgotten allusion to a childhood memory suddenly unlocked a revelation about your own journey. Opportunities materialized when you least expected them. A new project surfaced that aligned so precisely with your long-buried passion that you could hardly contain your excitement. Yet, at the same time, resistance cropped up in unexpected forms. Emails you had sent promising to address your ideas were left unanswered. The same old group that once embraced your presence now treated you like an outsider. It felt as though divine architecture was unfolding, arranging a series of doorways that opened for you while barricading those who could not yet accompany you to the next level. In that swirling dance of opening and closing, you grasped that what was within you was now echoed without. The awakening inside you was mirrored by the stirrings in your outer world. Amidst these shifts, something deeper stirred. A sacred memory you had carried like a faint heartbeat began to awaken with new vigor. In your dreams, you revisited landscapes that felt eerily familiar. Ruins of a temple you had never physically seen, libraries filled with scrolls that seemed to whisper your name. At first, you dismissed these nocturnal glimpses as the residue of a vivid imagination. But as the waking world began to align with those dreamscapes, finding that ancient-looking mosaic in an unremarkable museum, recognizing symbols from your dreams etched into the architecture of a city square, you realized that you had traversed this terrain before in some hidden place of the soul. It was as if a passage of memory long sealed by layers of ordinary living suddenly swung open, revealing the ancestral corridors of your spiritual intelligence. In 2 Kings 13 verse 25, it is written that Joash did what was right all his days because Jehoiada the priest instructed him. Similarly, that instruction you received under the cover of sleep was now guiding you back to an identity that time had nearly obscured. Now, see before you the contours of destiny becoming visible, not as an unreachable ideal, but as a living tapestry you have walked upon for lifetimes. The future is not being crafted anew. Rather, it is being remembered, reclaimed from the vault of your soul. A still, small voice echoes in your mind, urging you to stop seeking permission from anyone to step into your purpose. No longer must you ask, "Is this real? Am I imagining things?" Because the answers have always been inside you, quietly waiting behind the door of self-doubt. The path you walk now demands a different kind of courage, the courage to trust that destiny is calling you, that the roiling energy of your transformation will not betray you but will shape you into the vessel you were always meant to be. This is not an invitation to wander in circles, but a summons to stand and declare that you will no longer stray from the call that resonates in your bones. With that realization comes the reclamation of a voice that they tried to suppress, not through overt force, but through subtle insinuations that you were too sensitive, too deep, too much for polite company. Those insinuations once stifled your expression, causing you to shrink into comfortable roles that never fit. But now, that same resistance only highlights the power you carry. Hear the fierce whisper within that reminds you how Deborah, chosen by divine decree, rose as Israel's judge despite being a woman in a patriarchal era. Judges 4 verses 4 to 5. Her story mirrors yours. When prophets spoke truth to power, they faced scorn and disbelief, yet they stood firm. You were never meant to cower before doubt or to yield to the pressures that sought to lock you into smallness. The renewal of your voice is a reclamation of something they long tried to steal, your right to speak the language of higher realms without apology. Now pause and feel the wave of awakening swell in your spirit. Revelation is not the culmination, but the threshold to action. The truths that once hid beneath layers of fear and confusion have emerged, not as distant ideals to admire, but as living currents demanding to be channeled into your everyday world. You are not merely an observer of this awakening. You are its protagonist, the message you carry, the spiritual code woven into every thought, dream, and action, needs to anchor in hearts that remain asleep. In Micah 3 verse 8, the prophet declared that with a message, "I am full of power, with the Spirit of the Lord within me." That same Spirit now fills you, urging you to step forth into a role that cannot be defined by others' narrow expectations. Your life's purpose unfolds at the intersection of vision and action, and no longer can you stand at the precipice of possibility without taking the leap. The veil has lifted, but the journey has just begun. Remember that the world's resistance only confirms the strength of your awakening. As you prepare to move from understanding to embodiment, know that every step you take will further unravel the tapestry of collective slumber. Let your newly attuned eyes read the sacred codices hidden in fractured patterns. A single snowflake's geometry, the spiral of a seashell, the cadence of morning birdsong. Each of these is a signpost pointing back to the unity of creation. When you align your actions with these revelations, you transcend mere logic and step into a mythic flow where your life becomes the living prophecy you once only glimpsed in dreams. Comment seen if this resonates with you, and let others feel the pull of this rising wave of awakening. Embracing your unique transmission. Have you ever stood at the edge of a precipice as dawn's first light stretched across the horizon, the air trembling with a promise you could almost taste on your tongue? In that fleeting moment, passivity shatters, and you sense an invitation to step forward into what has always been waiting for you. You cannot remain on the mountaintop hatched by revelation, merely basking in its glow. The path calls you downward, across ridges of uncertainty into valleys where your transmission will echo through hidden caves of consciousness. This decision is not a casual choice, but a sacred crossroads. Remain tethered to the familiar silence that once protected your vulnerability, or answer the call to speak with authority and purpose. Feel the tremor that runs through your bones. The question you will answer now is not, "Can I?" but, "Will I step through this door fully, without hesitation, into the role seated within your soul?" In the solitude of preparation, you have offered fragments of your voice in hushed tones. An email sent at dawn, a whisper in a friend's ear, a journal entry erased before the words could crystallize into manifesto. You once believed that these small offerings sufficed, but now you recognize that each fragment was a piece of a larger mosaic that was never meant to stay hidden. Consider the way David reclaimed his harp and stood before Goliath, refusing to let the armor of his predecessor weigh him down. 1 Samuel 17 verses 38 to 40. Similarly, your seasons of silence were not failures but training grounds. Every hour spent contorting your truth into shapes that would not offend was a lesson in how to discern which words to release and which to hold until their time. Now you call back every ounce of time, energy, and presence you once dispersed in attempts to fit in, offering them anew to the creation of a voice unchained. With each reclaimed fragment, feel the surge of sovereignty that arises when you recognize your throne was never outside you. It was always embodied in the resonance of your own heartbeat. Now that you stand reclaiming inner authority, allow yourself to name the power you carry, names that reach beyond labels to the core of your spirit. You bear insight, a deep knowing that has whispered through your dreams and left impressions on your waking days. You carry sensitivity, not as a weakness but as an antenna tuned to frequencies of empathy and ancient truth. You carry memory, an archive of ancestral codes written in the marrow of your bones. Every rejection you faced, every moment you felt abandoned, was part of the grand design to awaken your soul. When you embrace the power in your solitude, you transmute their fear into fuel. You become unstoppable. The deeper you delve, the more they tremble, for they know that a chosen one cannot be caged. Rise now, and let every moment of solitude shine like a beacon to others who wait in the shadows. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like this video, and comment "I am chosen" to let this message anchor in your soul. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Thank you to all our supporting members for holding this space. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every Super Thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. Remember, your voice is a code that can never be silenced, and your time is now.